Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state.
That's where the coaching comes in.
Yep.
Like when you realize there's something going on, I don't know what it is. I thought about it, I can't figure it out. Let me get that third party.
Yeah.
Is that where the magic happens?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll just say this for the listeners as well. It doesn't always have to be a problem that you're looking to bring a coach in for. Like you can look at somebody in your org chart and say, man, Bob he's killing it. Like the numbers are great. His team is flourishing, but man, there's more in him.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's more that if somebody could see it and know how to lead him and grow that in him, like Bob could be our next ace in the hole.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if you have that feeling, right? If the Holy Spirit's like, hey man, Bob needs some attention. Like there's something inside of him that needs to be cultivated. All right, bring a coach in. Like get that outside perspective and dive into him individually and see what he actually is passionate about, that he doesn't have, the opportunity to explore.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when I come in, and I love that situation. Actually, I prefer that because there's less tension. But I love to dive into that conversation to really find out what fires that individual up and apply that to what they're already doing and just letting them be creative with it. And it grows like wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
Like it'll spread, and now they're fired up about projects at a different level, and they're seeing like a deeper why to even the small mundane things that they have to do. It's really fun to see the potential really light up in those individuals.
Yeah, I think that's it takes a leader an honest assessment of their own capacity. We've used that word a lot in the last 2 episodes. But to say, okay, I get it, and I see him, but I just don't know. Let me get that third party to come in and just blow him up and take him. So we were preparing a couple of days ago for this episode. We talked about, you brought up the formation before the play, which makes sense from a coaching perspective,
right.
As you outlined it. But I thought it was just I've never heard it anywhere else in any kind of leadership strategy. But walk through that, and it pertains to taking Bob to a new level.
Yeah,
because he's just kind of hanging out. What does the formation before the play concept mean to you guys, and how does your third party coaching affect that?
Yeah. So that's a strategy that I have built over 6 years of doing executive coaching now. And it comes from my football days. So for the listeners, football strategy on the offensive side is you're going to have a playbook, right? Well, that playbook is going to have possibly hundreds of plays, but you can't run every one of those plays from the same formation. You're going to have to get your guys on the field and in specific positions to set you up to run individual plays, right? So this goes back to, you can read a book but not know exactly how to apply it. You've got to break it down, right? Every problem is something complicated waiting to be simplified. So this is just a way to simplify a strategy to get somebody where you need them to be. Okay. So I'll use the example of confidence. Okay. I mentioned that a little earlier. So if I step in and I see that confidence is what needs to be cultivated in this leader, that's my formation. That's the majority topic that we're going to focus on. I'm going to really hone in on how to improve Bob's confidence. Okay. Well, that opens up a portion of the playbook for me. It's not going to be the same as conflict management. It's not going to be the same as emotional intelligence. I have a specific set of plays that I'm going to call out to accomplish confidence. Okay. So in a lot of the plays that I run in growing confidence is we're going to start out running some intentional plays. Okay. So what that means is we're going to hone in on where you're not confident. Okay. And this can be something that's seemingly minute. Like it's well, I don't have to be confident when I'm trying something new. But what if you were? What if you had bulletproof confidence in every area of your life and every opportunity that you're going to step into? So we really start to identify some intentional opportunities to put on the calendar on a daily basis. Okay. We set that in. The second play that we run off of that is going to be repetition. So we're just going to look for every opportunity to put that into our calendar. All right. So Bob's not confident dealing with irritated clients. That's like his lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
If he improved there, everything would get better at his emotional capacity, like his energy, his optimism. Okay, so that's the point of intentionality. We're going to focus on your ability to be confident dealing with a client that is just not satisfied. Okay. Well, we're going to look for every opportunity for you to get a rep in that every day, not just when the phone rings and you're dreading it. Like we're going to manufacture a practice field environment to where you're going to have to be in that mindset every day. Well, as you run that play and you get rep after rep after rep, you're going to get more competent. Okay.
I love this.
So the next play is we're really going to figure out what you're learning about yourself and how to navigate that human terrain in that environment where there's just a frustrated person that's not having their expectations met, whether that's realistic or not. What are you learning about yourself, and how can you leverage the tools, the knowledge, the skill sets that you have to be able to give value in that? And as you run that play of competence, confidence is going to come natural.
I love that. Man, that's so. You came up with that?
I did.
That's awesome. You should put a copyright on that.
We may or may not be doing that here soon.
Yeah, write a book about it. Because I think that's, when you're looking at, I've been in these positions, forever, whether it was being a teacher and being on the homecoming committee and trying to organize battle of the classes, or trying to figure out how to launch a statewide program when no one really knows what's going on. Like no one knows how we're going to do that because it's never been done before. There were certainly a lot of things I didn't know I struggled with, but I look at my team and like they're all amazing, and that's why they work here. But there are so many things that as you're going through that, I was thinking, okay, well, there's these people, and this is where they're not confident. Like it's very clear that they're not confident, or in some cases they're not good at it because they've never had the repetition, and that's my fault. That's not on them, right? How often do leaders recognize that once you come back and say, okay, well, I did my analysis on all these people, I coached them all. Here's some things that I see. Here's what you told me. Here's what I found. Here's my plan. How often do they just accept it and say, okay, cool? Or do they argue that your insights are not correct?
Most of the time, they are so grateful to be enlightened to that, because once again, they're wrapped up in the whirlwind. Like they have day-to-day responsibilities and tasks and other people that they're leading, that when somebody comes in and shows them, hey, here's the real thing that's going on, it's like, oh God, okay, we found it.
Okay.
And so it's really a breath of fresh air to the majority of people. I'm not saying it's 100%
Oh, sure.
success rate. There is times it's like, well, but I've been trying to get them to do that. Like I knew that, and it's like, okay, but the strategy was off. So
Right.
it's not a bad thing. Let me help you develop a different strategy, and let's make some headway here.
Yeah, that goes back to Dan's overall, the mission, the vision, the strategy, and the structure.
Yep.
Is the strategy and structure where your formation before the play comes in?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, I'm trying to track because you guys are smarter than me, and that's the thing I love about my job is I get to be the dumbest kid in the room. Okay, let's talk. We've talked about what this looks like from the leader perspective, and I think a little bit on the personal side. But let's say that I'm Bob, and my boss has called you guys in. Say, hey, Bob needs a boost. What does this relationship look like for Bob? Because listeners are going to say, "Oh man, that sounds really good," but what am I actually going to put Bob through? What am I committing him to on the personal level? So walk through that. If you were coaching me up, what would our daily, weekly, monthly interactions look like?
Yeah, it depends on the urgency of what the actual goal is, right? If it's a fast approaching deadline that we've got to make a lot of progress in a short amount of time, we're probably looking at a week-to-week engagement, once a week. And I try to set it up to where we have a reoccurring meeting, say 8:30 on Tuesday, every Tuesday.
Right.
We're going to hop on a Zoom, or I'm going to come do a site visit, and we're going to sit down for an hour, and we're going to really hone in on what we said that you need to be committed to. And I'm going to be that brainstorm partner, and we're going to really hash out the details of this. If we go to a lesser urgent issue where it's like, hey, we need you to meet this potential, or we need this performance boost, but it's not like essential to the success of the team, then we may go to every other week. So every other Tuesday at 8:30, we're gonna hop on a Zoom or meet in person, and we're gonna go through what we have committed to as the strategy to get you to accomplish those goals. And then if it's more of a, I don't really know, what this individual needs. He just needs a personal touch, to really get some momentum track and to give him some encouragement. Then that may be once a month. But I find a really sweet spot in every other week. So twice a month with my clients.
Yeah.
Because a lot can happen from one month to the next.
Yeah, too much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't like to have a lot of downtime between my touches with my clients. I like to stay engaged. I like to stay up to date on what's happening. And I ask every one of my clients every time that we start a meeting, I need a personal and a professional update.
Yeah.
So I don't need to just hear what's pertaining to your professional goals and what may shift that. Give me an idea of what's happened at home.
Because that's half the battle.
Oh, well, most of the time, that's most of the battle.
Yeah.
Because it has more emotional energy.
Yeah. I had a superintendent one time, Coleman County Schools, Craig Ross is his name, and he was talking about that as principals leading and how you walk in the door, and what the first thing people see from you. And obviously he needed you to be dressed well, clean, and approachable, and preferably happy. He said, but what happens, he said, just this morning, my wife and I had a really good argument as I was walking out the door, and I had to walk out the door and leave that undone. And now I'm here, and this was like the in-service, He's like, I'm trying to walk in here and be like the best thing y'all have ever seen and best thing for you, but I don't know what's going to happen when I get home.
Yeah.
So how do I, so I'd love to hear you say that you get that personal checkup, because I mean, even for me, like, my team, half of my team knows my family,
Yeah.
like we all, so like they know what's going on and I know what's going on with them.
Yep.
So in that situation, and not talk about my team, but like, cause well, they probably wouldn't want me to go there, cause, but they're amazing. But like, let's take a team that's like that, where they all, maybe it's a family business, or it's a bunch of buddies that started something, or gosh, they just been around and they've blurred those personal and professional lines. It's okay.
Yep.
But now they're in that situation. How do you coach them through all that when everybody kind of knows everybody's business and you've got a couple cats that are struggling? How do you balance that personal and professional mix?
If I had to nail it down to one point that we can discuss is, man, I can't do it just one. I'll do two.
Sure, we got all the time in the world.
So number one is setting expectations for what you're walking into. Okay. That's a battle that I got baptized by fire many years ago, and I was working in a stressful conflict-filled environment, and what I found myself to do was, because I'm leaving work and I'm going home, I had really high expectations of how home was going to be. And I was like, I'm very optimistic of what I'm about to step into, right? But then you come home and now maybe there's an immediate conflict that pops up. Well, now my expectations are shattered. Like, Savannah's a teacher and she deals with crazy middle school kids. And so I have to be prepared for a potential conflictual situation as soon as I step through that door. She may need me to be that landing, zone for her to just hash out her day. And if I'm setting too high of unrealistic expectations for what that environment's going to be, then I'm not going to show up as the man that I need to be, as the leader that she really requires, right? So I'm very intentional with resetting my mind and like resetting realistic expectations. And that's something that is natural for some people. Like they're good at compartmentalizing different atmospheres and different rooms. Some people aren't, and once again, when I ask that question, give me a personal and a professional update, I can kind of gauge their skill set in that. And if that's a low common denominator, then we'll hone in on that and we'll work through that process, and I'll give them some tools to consider. So expectation is probably the primary thing. The second point that's a little deeper and more complex is emotional disassociation. And that has a negative connotation, especially with all the trigger words that we can talk about in social media and everything now. But as a leader, you have to be able to disassociate yourself from the emotions that you're feeling. You just have to. Like, emotions are great guides, terrible masters. So when you don't have the ability to disassociate from the feelings that you have in any room or environment, then that's going to be what influences all of your decision-making process. Like, it's going to be a variable that is going to contaminate the best solution for the people that are expecting value of you. So if you did just have an argument with your wife at home, you're going to have to disassociate from those emotions to show up and be the leader that everybody's expecting you to be, to have that command presence,
Yep.
right? You can't walk in and be disheartened and disgruntled because there's unmet resolution at home when your team needs you to be the ace in the hole.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, and that's a skill set. It really is. It's more natural to some people, but if you really, going back to the playbook,
Yeah.
if you put that into your intentionality, and it's like, this is the one thing I have to get best at. Okay, then let's talk about some scenarios. Let's do some role plays where I get some feedback on how you would handle this
Mhm.
human terrain. And the more you get reps in that, the more competent you get, and confidence is the actuator to any progress.
Mhm. So I'm looking at all the notes we made, and one of the thoughts you had was about the one belief or habit that separates leaders who manage or generally transform people.
Mhm.
But if I'm still looking at, I'm Bob,
Mhm.
and what's that one thing among those people that really allows them to shift into a higher gear? Is it this the inability to detach emotionally?
A lot of times, yes. That's why I said previously, emotional intelligence is one of those things that I have learned that I have to master,
Yeah.
and I went all in on that more than a decade ago.
Yeah.
It came from a situation, not to get distracted in a full story, but I was in an environment where somebody that I loved and trusted asked me a question that broke me down, and he said, "What does your wife need from you more than
Mm.
anything else?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the Holy Spirit just shook me and said, "She needs to know what you're feeling. She needs to know your emotions." And that question rocked me because I was like, well, how the flip do I do that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I communicate my emotions? And so I just said, I'm not the kind of guy that I don't like knowing what I don't know. But when I know it, okay, I'm going to find out as much as I can about that and educate myself and train myself on it. So I devoted my spare time, all of my research and study and reading to emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And so I skilled myself up in that regard. And I have found that now that's what I'm able to use at a really high level with my clients to help them improve their emotional intelligence
Mhm.
and to just know how to regulate themselves, know how to identify what the heck they're feeling.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people will assume, well, I feel triggered, I feel frustrated, but really that's not the emotion that you're dealing with. It's the shame that you felt when you got called out
Mm-hmm.
and the regret that you have that you didn't explore that, 10 years ago. Like, it's a lot deeper than that, right?
Yeah.
But as you dive into that and you start to recognize, man, I have a lot of emotions that I experience on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
But if you keep it, and I can, and this is something that I hear from guys all the time, like, I'm not really emotional. That's crap.
That's crap.
You have gotten really good at suppressing your emotions
Yeah.
and learning how to avoid them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some of my favorite work. And I'm not one that beats around the bush and tries to make my clients comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I'm doing this for a reason. And if you get good at this, everything else will just catch fire. So
Mhm.
emotional intelligence is not just one thing that I've found a lot of passion in, but I've found to be the catalyst to most people's growth. And emotional intelligence is limitless, just like your potential. Like,
Mhm.
you really cannot reach the end of your emotional intelligence. You can always get better at it. You can always learn how to regulate yourself. You can always learn how to recognize emotions in other people at a higher level, So I don't know if that answered your
It
question.
did. It did. So some time ago, man, I don't know. These things run together. I think it was December it aired. We had a guy named Perry Goins from Alabama Department of Mental Health. And we're talking about therapy and what they do in the mental health facilities, but we talked about outpatient mental health too.
Mhm.
And specifically for men, how 10, 20 years ago, you didn't talk about it.
Right.
You didn't have emotions.
Yep.
Okay. Now it's more okay. to talk about. I mean, I'm mad or I'm sad or I'm jealous or whatever. But how you handle that. So when I think about all the people we deal with, like they're alpha dudes,
Mhm.
you know, they run equipment or they are leading big groups or they're just that command presence type of guy. But I know they're still struggling.
Mhm.
I'm the same way. How do you coach those guys really to embrace that talking about what they're feeling
Yeah.
to get past the situation?
Yeah.
We've talked around it maybe, but like, because there's a dude out there that's going to hear it.
Mhm.
He's going to say, okay, well, yeah, what he just said resonates.
Yeah.
Now, how do I get through that?
Yeah. The thing that I try to do with my clients, and you really don't need a coach for this. You just need to sit with it. You need to really do some introspection and evaluate what you are missing out on because you're scared of that emotional sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Especially with a dude that has found a lot of success in his level of ego and his drive, right? His tenacity. Sitting back and saying, well, if I put emotion into that, it's going to throw my plan into chaos.
Mm-hmm.
It can, but it also may be the door that unlocks the best version of you and your dreams to come to fruition. I would say that's a great option to explore.
Yeah, because a lot of times if you're deeply and secretly jealous or scared of putting yourself out there, and then you realize that I can do this, and it's okay if I am jealous or scared. I'll work through it later. But just owning that out loud to yourself, now you can go back to that play you're going to run,
Yep.
and on your own or with a coach, and put yourself in that situation. I love it, just sitting with it and owning it. That goes back to Jocko's book about extreme ownership.
Yep.
I'm an insecure dude, and if you're that way, you just say it out loud.
Yep.
And
Yep.
flip it around and say rather than the negative statement, the positives. A lot of different things, I guess. So
Yeah, no, I think going back to your listeners that may resonate with that, one of the things that I say all the time is comparison is the killer of kings. Like when you look at your performance, you look at the things that you have found success in, and you start comparing that to anybody else, and you get emotionally attached to that, man, you're robbing yourself. Like everybody that has ears, please hear.
yeah,
You're your own individual, and God made you in a specific ordained way to give value that nobody else can. So anytime that you feel jealous of somebody else, and I'll say this, and it's a bold statement, but I truly believe it, is God can't bless who you're pretending to be.
that's deep. I love that.
And if you look through scripture, like anybody that was scared of what God was asking them to do, that nobody else has been asked to do, one of their first points of resistance is, well, what would people think? How will what if they don't receive me? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, this is who you're called to be.
Yeah.
So shine your light, like be your own individual and show it with, a genuine sense of self, and don't care about what everybody thinks about you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a superpower I have. Like I really don't care what people think about me.
Yeah.
And I've found that to be what gives me confidence in a lot of new opportunities and things that I get asked to step into that I've never done before. I'm like, okay, if not me, then who?
Yeah.
And not care
Yeah.
about the result.
Yeah.
This is a rep.
Yeah. I've been brought here to this moment, and that person asked me, it's a divine, a divine encounter.
Yep.
It's really how this job I have came to be. I was like, oh my gosh, what is that going to look like? And my wife was like, I don't know if you should do that, like you don't like change. I'm like, well, I need to figure that out, and so that's what we did.
So how many episodes is this?
Oh, I'm talking about the job I have in general.
I'm just using this as an example.
Gosh, this is going to be like 88 or 89.
89. Okay. So if on day one, when y'all had the idea to start a podcast, right, and you immediately compared yourself to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And then by episode 5, you didn't get 1 million views and you were stuck to that comparison to Joe Rogan, well, you'd burn out. It's like, well, I can't be like Joe Rogan, so what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Well, then people watching this on episode 89 would miss out on what value you're bringing to the table right now. And it's no different in the workplace.
You're right.
If you're looking at your superior leader and it's like, well, I don't know how to be him, so I'll just be complacent and I'll just fit my role. Well, you're missing out. Like, you should have aspirations for yourself. And the way to that is your authentic gifts.
Yeah. That's a whole other episode.
Oh,
Finding your authentic gifts. Let's switch gears just a little bit. Got a couple more questions for you, more topics. Conflict is not a leadership failure, but a signal. All right. So how do you get those leaders, executives, or even, I say the doer, I think, because they see things too, to determine if it's people or process or a leadership problem?
Yeah. So we have a tool. Conflict management is another favorite topic of mine. And as I was trying to navigate this with clients, I'm good. One of my greatest gifts is taking a topic that's seemingly complex and simplifying it down to a digestible tool. And so I knew that, just like you and Dan talked about, the definition of leadership is seemingly, everybody would assume everybody knows what leadership is until you get down to a conversation. It's like everybody has these different preferences and different ways of seeing leadership. Conflict's the same way. Like, some people will say they like conflict. I'm the kind of individual that I appreciate conflict. I see the growth that can happen through it and the new things that can come to light if you are willing to step into necessary conflict. Some people have a negative connotation on conflict. The majority of people do.
Yeah.
So they try to avoid it. So I say that conflict is some of the greatest leadership opportunities that you get. And you're also tested most in your leadership ability through navigating conflict. So I have developed a tool that delineates the types of conflict so that it helps my clients and the people that we train really identify what kind of conflict they need to improve on the most. And level 1 is just a difference in preferences. Okay. So back to the example that I was going over earlier. So me and you are working in the same office space. We get our job done. We have an excellent product, but the way that you do that is kind of frustrating. Like, I don't really know how to get in the same flow state as you do to come up with a result. Well, that's not that big of a deal. Like, it's not that heavy of a weight that I should pick up every day. And I definitely shouldn't treat it like you're attacking me.
Right.
That's just the way that you do things. So that's just a preference difference. Okay. The second level is expectations. This is where it gets a little bit more serious, because as me and you are working on a project, well, there's an expectation of the result that we're going to arrive at. Well, if we're unclear or there's a difference in the expectations that we have, the chances of us arriving to that destination is pretty slim. And that can be an expectation of how you show up to work. Do you actually bathe, or is it miserable to be around because you don't care about personal hygiene, right? So that's not just a preference. That's affecting me. Expectations affect each other. So we'll go down through setting like realistic expectations, ones that's not selfish, ones that's necessary now, things like that. The third is based on character. Are we aligned in our core values? Like, do you have a different outlook on life to where you are disrespectful to me at some level? Like, you put this, you create this environment that's always going to be tension filled because you have a different way of viewing who we're supposed to be in this organization. Do you value integrity, or are you just willing to do whatever to get to the results? Well, if I have a high value in integrity and you don't have any value in integrity, then we're going to be at odds with each other.
Yeah.
And I'm going to judge you, and I'm going to say there's something here we're not in alignment. There's disunity on the team. And if you don't have those conversations inside of an organization, then you've got a cancer in the culture, right? And that's a lot of weight. Like, when you start seeing a pattern of a character deficit in people on your team, you better address it pretty quick. Preferences, you can put that off and address it when it's convenient and when you have the capacity to just be emotionally intelligent, right?
Right.
But a core value difference, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, now we're talking about things that's really going to affect how we work together and how we go back home to our families, right?
Yeah.
And then the fourth level just comes down to actual safety. Like, are you doing things that's dangerous? Are you putting me in harm's way? Is there some level of abuse that's happening or negligence that needs to be addressed? Well, if you don't address that right then what you tolerate, you encourage, right? So now the work environment just becomes very dangerous because it's safety issues, right?
Yeah.
You don't just wait until the end of the shift before you address that somebody almost had a crane drop on their head. Like, no. Stop everything, right?
Yeah. That's a lot to diagnose. Is that something it takes a long time typically? Or I mean, obviously safety. Like when I was a principal, I remember the first day I got hurt late, like mid-July. School started first week of August, and I got there. And the very first, I never thought about this. The very first day of school, the buses and the car line were in the same line. So little kids were getting off buses and getting out of cars, and everybody going different ways at the end. Like, and kids were going to different doors, and I about lost it. And I called the superintendent, and I said, I got this great. And he's like, okay, fix it. So I just did something, and it caused, but it was an extreme safety issue, right? And then eventually we did get down to those preferences, and that, the second grade teacher had been there forever, just really didn't like the third grade teacher and the way she organized her board. And that was a problem we had to get through, but it was, and that took a long time to get to.
Yeah.
Like, why does Miss Smith hate Miss Jones? It's that dang, calendar out there.
Yep.
Wrong font, right, whatever. So anyway, I love that.
It's important when you have two people that you're dealing with that's in conflict with each other that they see it on the same level, right? If somebody just sees a difference as just a preference difference, but the other person is seeing it as a core value difference,
Yeah.
you're not going to arrive at a resolution because you're not seeing it with the same intensity.
Yeah.
So you have, and maybe the person that sees it as a preference needs to bump it up a little bit, and the person that sees it as core value needs to chill out just a little bit. They need to come down, and they need to talk about expectations. So sometimes it's meeting in the middle.
Does a coach, have you helped those situations where you've brought them to that middle, like working with two people? As you mentioned earlier, two guys who were kind of at each other.
That's exactly what I did with them.
Okay.
Yep. I had to help them identify, like, you have a problem with them because you think they're a piece of trash. But they're really not. Like, you need to get to know them. Like, so that was one of the assignments is you're going to go and hang out with this dude every day and learn about his home life, learn about what he likes and what he does for hobbies. Like, get to know him. And then you'll start to realize, like, he's not that bad of a dude.
Yeah.
So now we're just talking about a preference difference. So it decreased the amount of tension in that relationship and made a pathway to clarity.
Yeah. To some alignment.
Yep.
Of that. Good. Last question for you. I don't even know how long we've been going, but there are so many nuggets in this thing. Like, this might end up being a 2-part show. If you said out there, and I know there's no silver bullet, but if you said, hey, here's one thing you can do as an executive or a leader, a manager, or a doer, here's the one thing you can do right now to make your capacity better at whatever you're doing. What's that one thing they can start with?
Relational equity. I truly believe the more you know about your people, and you made reference to this, like, you may have worked with somebody for 20 years, and so you feel like you've got them figured out. But there's more depth to people than you can really understand. The more you get to know the people that you lead, the more capacity you're going to grow, because now you have more intel to make decisions on. And once you start to see feedback come back, like, across your desk, you know why.
Yeah.
You know why there's a performance issue happening now. Well, it's because they're having a lot of issues with their marriage. It's why, like, they just had a new baby. Like, everybody knows that's got kids. Like, the first 3 months of your life, you're in chaos. You're right. Like, you're sleep deprived. You're stressed about keeping this new living being, breathing. So, like, that's going to play into how they perform at work. Right. So, and shocking, I have seen some wild stuff. And as I have forced the people that I coach to go have those conversations with their team members, they've come back to me like, man, I didn't know that he started a band.
Yeah.
Man, we actually sat down and talked for 3 hours about the gigs that they're getting the next month. Like, it was a really awesome conversation. And I also have people that's like, well, I didn't know that they had a baby 2 weeks ago. I'm like, oh my God. Like, so no one, you're stressed out because you don't have enough information to make decisions on.
Yeah.
So your capacity is shrinking. So the more you get to know people, the
Yeah.
greater your capacity grows, which it seems counterintuitive because it's like, well, the more time I spend with people, the less time I have to do work.
Mm.
But most of your work is done in spending time with people.
Yep. Well, I think that's something we do, especially in this building. We hang out a lot, because
Good.
we know each other pretty well. I wish the whole, I think one thing about our team, we're spread out over the whole state.
Mhm.
So I'm here and there's a team member in Mobile and Andalusia, several in Montgomery. It's hard to get face to face.
Yeah.
And I know them, but I don't know them as well as the ones in this room. Do you know who's a master at relational equity? You're gonna laugh when I say this. Larry Peck.
Yeah, I can see that.
I fell asleep one time during coach's film study. Rowan was 2 months old, and then we had this big couch. And it was dark, and there was the of the projector.
Yeah.
And I guess he knew I was asleep. And he was like, "Hey, Blackwood." And I said, "What?" Wow. He's like, "How's that baby sleeping?" I was like, "Not good, not good." But it told me in a very indirect way, "Hey, sit up, man. Like it was playoff time."
Yeah.
He's like, "Sit up and pay attention." So I did. But when you were talking about that, I was like, "Oh man," went back.
But there again, he knew why
Mhm.
you were exhausted. Like
Mhm.
he could resonate with that.
Yep.
He brought you back to the mission.
Yep.
But the first thing they led with is, hey, this is what I know is probably influencing, your decisions right now.
Yeah. Man, so many stories with that guy. What a gem of a human.
What a character. Yeah.
Cool. Well, getting to our final thoughts, man. I tell you what, I've taken notes. I'm gonna do some fun AI stuff and take all these things I wrote down from you and Dan,
Yeah.
and put it into something. And probably shouldn't say this out loud to you, but deploy it with my team.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so good. I think what you guys hearing it, and not only like it sounds like it is just spot on common sense, but I know also there's a faith behind it and a personal mission, and you've mentioned Holy Spirit a few times, but just knowing, I feel like y'all just know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like the real, here's what people need, but here's why I am doing this.
Yeah.
Right. And being confident in that. That's really cool.
Well, I'll share it. Every one of my tools, and Dan said, we give an individual solution to our clients. We don't have like, hey, here's our course on this that we deploy to everybody. No, we really care about giving as much value as possible to every individual. And all the tools that I have developed, everything that I run my clients through came from my journal.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
I may have read, Extreme Ownership's a great resource, 5 levels of leadership, all of that stuff. Like, yeah, it gives you a good framework, but if you don't have an individual experience that ties in and where God can actually show you some depth behind it, I think a lot of leaders miss out on that. So I'm so honored to get to do what I do because I can't take credit for it. Like all of these things that I give value to my clients, it came from my journal and personal experience with the Holy Spirit. So that's why I have such a passion for it, man.
Yeah. Well, that comes through like just drips off of you guys,
Thank you. It's a good compliment right there.
Yeah. It's, y'all walk in the room, and I saw it one time I was with y'all. I was like, well, these guys are bringing it. So, so thanks for being on, man. I know it's a couple hours or 3 hours out of your day, but it's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
So how can folks reach you?
So our website is durbinleadership.com. Obviously, that's where you can see me and the team. I'm in a suit. I don't try to stay out of suits as much as possible, but you can see me in a suit if you go to our website. And there's several of our coaches that's on there. There's a form that you can fill out on there if you're looking for coaching. That's just to start the conversation. There's no kind of commitment that comes from that.
Right.
But that's a way that you can directly contact me and kind of get the ball rolling just to see if that's a valid option for a leader organization out there. And then my email is wes@durbinleadership.com. So if you're listening to this and you have questions or want me to help you through any of the details, I'd love to start a conversation. So
yeah, awesome.
The primary ways.
Well, I bet they won't be disappointed. Wes@durbinleadership.com or just durbinleadership.com. So good, man. Thanks for being here. This is phenomenal.
Thank you.
Transforming for somebody. I know it, in the lesson audience, or maybe on this team. So another good episode of Innovation Unplugged. Thanks for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, and share on all your favorite podcast platforms. Have a good day.